At the heart of Alice Hargreaves' dramatic encounter with the royal guards lies a stark clash between entitlement and tradition, a tension that unfolded on the ancient cobblestones of Buckingham Palace's eastern gate. Alice, a self-assured woman draped in designer sportswear and wielding an air of superiority, arrived with the unshakable belief that the changing of the guard was little more than a tourist gimmick, a quaint performance meant to amuse visitors like herself. With a smirk, she planted herself squarely in the guard's path, convinced that her personal agenda trumped centuries of British military custom. To her, the scarlet-clad soldiers were mere actors who would surely detour around her to accommodate her need for a quick photo before her lunch at the Ritz. This assumption, however, crumbled the moment guard Liam Baxter and his unit advanced without hesitation, their disciplined march embodying a legacy far older and more resolute than Alice's fleeting demands. Her refusal to step aside wasn't just a petty act of defiance. It was a bold declaration that long-standing tradition should bend to her convenience. Yet as the guards closed in, their steady boots echoing with authority, Alice discovered a painful truth. Tradition, especially one upheld by active duty soldiers, doesn't yield to entitlement. The collision that followed, precise, controlled, and inevitable, sent her tumbling, her sunglasses and phone scattering as she hit the ground. What Alice saw as a tourist trap was, in reality, a living testament to duty and honor, unbroken by her wealth or status. Her story serves as a modern parable, reminding us that when personal privilege meets unshakable tradition, the latter prevails, often with a lesson that lingers longer than any photograph. In that moment, Alice's entitlement met its match and lost. Alice Hargreaves' encounter at Buckingham Palace wasn't just a clash of bodies. It was a glaring display of disrespect for authority that reverberated through the courtyard. From the moment she strutted in, her expensive heels clacking on the cobblestones, Alice made it clear she viewed the royal guards as beneath her. When a palace attendant calmly directed her to the queue, she waved him off with a sharp, "Do you know who I am?" A rhetorical jab meant to assert her dominance. Her disdain deepened as Gordon, a retired serviceman adorned with medals earned through genuine sacrifice, warned her to step back from the guard's path. "They can walk around me," she scoffed, rolling her eyes at his weathered wisdom and mocking the guards as soldiers in funny hats. Even as security officers issued urgent pleas, "Clear the path immediately or you'll be removed by force," Alice's voice rose defiantly. "This is a public space. I have every right to stand here." To her, the guards, the police, and the crowd were mere inconveniences, their authority laughable compared to her self-proclaimed importance. She taunted the approaching unit. "You lot work for us. Learn some customer service," as if their centuries-old duty was a service she could demand to her liking. This brazen disregard wasn't just ignorance. It was a deliberate challenge to the rules and respect owed to those in uniform. When guard Liam Baxter's disciplined march finally met her stubborn stance, the collision was as much a physical rebuke as a symbolic one. Alice's fall, her hand crushed under a boot she'd mocked, underscored a hard truth. Authority, when ignored and belittled, doesn't bend. It stands firm. Her screams of outrage couldn't erase the lesson that disrespect has a cost, one she paid in full view of a disapproving crowd. Alice Hargreaves' defiant stand at Buckingham Palace's eastern gate was a textbook case of what happens when stubbornness meets an immovable force, and the consequences were as swift as they were humbling. From the outset, Alice exuded an air of entitlement, brushing past an elderly couple and snapping at a family to wait their turn, all while insisting the Royal Guard's march was a trivial show she could bend to her will. When a palace attendant politely asked her to join the queue, she laughed it off, claiming her lunch at the Ritz justified her cutting in line. Gordon, a retired serviceman with medals pinned to his chest, stepped forward with a gentle but firm warning. "The guards will be coming through here shortly. You need to step back." Alice's response was a dismissive eye roll and a quip about funny hats, ignoring the gravity of his words. As the ceremonial drums grew louder and the guards' boots thudded closer, security officers issued repeated pleas. "Last warning, clear the path or you'll be removed by force." But Alice dug in her heels, daring them with a smug, "Try it. I'd love to see you explain that to my lawyer." She stood firm, phone aloft, as if her status as a paying visitor could rewrite the rules. Then came Guard Liam Baxter, leading his unit with the precision of a soldier who'd trained for far more than parades. The crowd parted, but Alice remained, a solitary obstacle in their path. In an instant, Baxter's shoulder met hers, not with malice but with the controlled force of protocol, sending her tumbling to the cobblestones. Her designer sunglasses skittered away, her phone clattered, and as she reached to break her fall, Baxter's boot landed squarely on her hand. The impact wasn't cruel, just inevitable, a direct result of her refusal to yield. Alice's scream pierced the air. "You broke my hand!" "He attacked me." But the guards marched on, their discipline unbroken. Her defiance, fueled by arrogance and a belief that rules didn't apply to her, led to a public fall that bruised more than her hand. She scrambled up, shouting about lawsuits, but the crowd's silence and the police's calm rebuttal, "You were warned 6 times," confirmed her fate. Defiance, she learned, carries a price, and at Buckingham Palace, it's paid in full view of history's unyielding gaze. The incident at Buckingham Palace's Eastern Gate wasn't just about Alice Hargreaves's arrogance. It was a vivid showcase of the Royal Guard's military discipline, a force as unyielding as the ancient stones beneath their boots. These weren't actors in a historical play, as Alice assumed when she blocked their path with a smirk, but active duty soldiers, trained to execute their orders with precision and resolve. Guard Liam Baxter, leading the unit, embodied this discipline from the moment he rounded the corner, his scarlet uniform crisp and his posture impeccable. Every step he took echoed centuries of tradition, a rhythm unbroken by the chaos of a modern tourist's demands. As Alice stood defiantly, phone raised for her perfect shot, the guard's measured march continued, undeterred by her presence or her taunts. "You lot work for us. Learn some customer service." Gordon, a retired serviceman, had tried to explain, "These aren't actors, madam. They're soldiers performing their sworn duty." Yet Alice scoffed, blind to the weight of their scarlet coats and polished brass. When security officers shouted, "Clear the path or you'll be removed by force," Baxter's unit didn't flinch or falter. Their formation held steady, closing the gap with an inevitability that spoke of rigorous training and unshakable focus. The collision that followed was no accident, but a testament to their protocol. Baxter's shoulder nudged Alice aside with calculated force, and his boot landed on her hand not out of spite, but because she remained an obstacle in their assigned route. As she screamed, "He attacked me!" and demanded his arrest, Baxter's eyes stayed fixed ahead, his stance unchanged, the scuff on his boot the only mark of the encounter. The guards marched on to their post, executing a perfect turn, their discipline a silent rebuke to her outburst. Captain Evans later affirmed, "My guard acted entirely within protocol," underscoring that these soldiers operate under strict orders, not whims. This wasn't a performance for Alice's amusement. It was a duty they'd earned through years of service, perhaps even on battlefields far from London's tourist crowds. The Royal Guard's discipline didn't just move Alice. It stood as a living monument to honor and sacrifice, unshaken by entitlement or ignorance, proving that true authority doesn't bend, it endures. Alice Hargreaves's dramatic tumble at Buckingham Palace didn't elicit the sympathy she expected. Instead, it revealed a profound lack of support from the crowd and authorities, a silent judgment on her behavior. As she sprawled on the cobblestones, clutching her injured hand and shrieking, "He attacked me! Did everyone see that?" She looked to the gathered tourists for backing, but the faces staring back weren't filled with concern. They were shaking their heads, phones in hand, recording her downfall. She'd pushed past an elderly couple, nearly knocked a child with her swinging handbag, and dismissed a family's pleas with a condescending, "They can wait a bit longer." Now, as she demanded Guard Liam Baxter's suspension, the crowd's silence spoke volumes. Gordon, the retired serviceman who'd warned her, stood calmly nearby, his offer of a steadying hand brushed off with a venomous, "Don't touch me," even when she turned to the police, shouting, "I want his name, his badge." P.C. Daniels and her colleagues remained unmoved, their notepads filled with witness accounts. Gordon, Martin, and tourists alike, who confirmed she'd ignored no fewer than 6 warnings. You were told repeatedly to clear the path, PC Stevens stated, his tone flat and factual, dismantling her claims of victimhood. Alice's cries of, "I'm a taxpayer," and threats of lawsuits, "My husband's lawyers will own this palace," fell on deaf ears, met only with the security officer's offer to file a formal complaint. The onlookers, from children hiding behind their parents to adults who'd waited patiently for the ceremony, offered no rescue. Her entitlement had burned every bridge, leaving her isolated in her outrage. The lack of sympathy wasn't cruelty. It was a collective recognition that Alice's actions, not the guards, had engineered her fate, a lesson etched in the crowd's quiet disapproval and the law's firm stance. Alice Hargreaves's clash with the royal guards at Buckingham Palace wasn't just a personal misadventure. It was a stark lesson in respect that rippled beyond her bruised hand and scuffed designer outfit, leaving an imprint on all who witnessed it. She arrived with a swagger, her luxury sportswear and dismissive attitude, signaling she saw the changing of the guard as a mere photo op, not a centuries-old tradition upheld by active duty soldiers. When a palace attendant asked her to join the queue, she snapped, "Do you know who I am?" A question that underscored her belief that respect was owed to her, not the other way around. Gordon, a retired serviceman, tried to impart wisdom earned through service. "These aren't actors, they're soldiers on duty." Yet Alice mocked him, sneering at the guards' funny hats and ignoring security's repeated warnings to clear their path. Her defiance peaked as she stood firm, taunting, "They'd better learn some customer service skills," as if their duty was a service she could dictate. The consequence came swiftly. Guard Liam Baxter's disciplined march nudged her aside, his boot landing on her hand not out of malice but as an inevitable result of her refusal to yield. Sprawled on the cobblestones, Alice's cries of, "He attacked me," and threats of lawsuits met a crowd that offered no sympathy, their silence a testament to her disrespect. Captain Evans drove the lesson home. These guards represent principles you've mocked: duty, service, sacrifice. This wasn't about a tourist's inconvenience. It was about recognizing something greater than personal whims. Alice's fall, captured on countless phones, became a public parable. Respect isn't optional when facing institutions built on honor. The video's closing reflection nails it. Some think money or status exempts them from rules, but traditions like the guards endure because they embody timeless values. For Alice, the cost was more than legal fees. It was a humbling reminder that disrespecting authority, whether a soldier's march or a nation's heritage, carries a price. Next time you're at a historic site, her story whispers, pause, step back, and honor what stands before you. It's bigger than any selfie. Alice Hargreaves's standoff at Buckingham Palace offers more than a tale of one woman's folly. It sparks a broader reflection on why some feel entitled to defy tradition and authority, a question that echoes through our modern age. Alice, with her designer sunglasses and sharp tongue, saw the royal guards as a tourist gimmick, not soldiers upholding a legacy spanning generations. Her refusal to move, despite warnings from Gordon, a decorated veteran, and security officers, stemmed from a belief that her personal convenience outweighed rules carved into the cobblestones of history. "This is a public space. I pay my taxes," she declared, as if wealth granted her immunity from respect. The guards' disciplined march, unmoved by her taunts, proved otherwise, leaving her sprawled and shouting about lawsuits. The video's closing musings hit the mark. Is it our era of instant gratification, where everything bends to individual whims, that breeds such arrogance? Or perhaps it's the notion that money and status, like Alice's boasts of her husband's lawyers, elevate some above the rest? Her collision with guard Liam Baxter wasn't just physical, it was a clash of values, pitting fleeting entitlement against enduring duty. The guards, who might have served in war zones yesterday and could again tomorrow, aren't props in a theme park. They're a living link to sacrifice and honor. Alice's lesson, etched in her fall and the crowd's silent judgment, urges us to look inward. Have we seen this before? Someone treating uniformed authority as a joke, blind to its depth? The story challenges us to reconsider. Respect isn't about blind obedience, but about recognizing what's bigger than ourselves. Next time you witness a ceremony, whether at home or abroad, think of Alice and choose to stand not in defiance, but in awe of what endures. Alice Hargreaves' clash with the royal guards offers timeless lessons that resonate deeply, especially for those of us over 50 who've seen life's ups and downs. The first message is clear. Respect for authority and tradition isn't just politeness, it's a recognition of values like duty and sacrifice that outlast our fleeting wants. Alice's refusal to step aside, blinded by entitlement, reminds us that arrogance can lead to a hard fall, whether on cobblestones or in life's quieter moments. For seniors, this might mean honoring the rules of a community, from a veterans hall to a family gathering, rather than insisting on our own way. Second, her story teaches humility. None of us are above the systems that hold society together, no matter our status or past achievements. Finally, it's a call to reflect. In an age of instant gratification, we must pause to value what endures, be it a soldier's march or the legacy we leave our grandkids. Next time you're tempted to push past a boundary, think of Alice. Life rewards those who step back with grace, not those who charge ahead with pride. Respect, after all, is the quiet strength of a life well lived.